Welcome to the Future of Teamwork podcast, where we explore cutting-edge strategies to keep teams human-centered, drive innovation, and empower you with the tools and insights needed to help your team excel and thrive in today's changing world. Today, Dane is joined by Greg Hulsizer. In this episode, Greg joins Dane to reflect on the through lines that have powered his leadership: an abundance mindset, a belief in human connection, and a deep respect for people doing the work. They explore the lessons he learned from launching the first fully automated toll road in the United States, why great leaders know when to let people go, and how to create the kind of emotional bank account that teams will rally around when things get hard. From black cloud meetings to this seems stupid to me contests to cash bonuses with champagne, Greg shares wisdom that's both deeply human and refreshingly practical. It's a conversation about trust, joy, and gratitude. So, teamwork makes the dream work, and we're here to inspire your next collaborative breakthrough. Gather your team or put on your headphones, and let's dive in together.
Welcome to the Future of Teamwork. My name's Dane Groeneveld, CEO of the Huddle 3 Group, and today I'm joined by Greg Hulsizer, a fellow San Clemente resident and Lower's Dawn Patrol buddy. So it's cool to have you on, Greg. Greg, you've been operating in a number of industries, but more recently operating as a consultant and an executive coach. I just look forward to diving into your story and what's lighting you up these days. So welcome.
Oh, thanks, Dane. Yeah, you're right. I've lived a blessed life, and I've had 4 completely different careers. None of them make any. Well, they do make sense looking back, looking in the rearview mirror. They all make sense. But I moved to San Clemente, where I live right now, and my first job was literally washing dishes on graveyard shift at Denny's. Right. Yeah. Then it came to me in a flash one night that they had. And I was making $2 an hour, which at that time was like a premium. It came to me in a flash of brilliance one night about 2 a.m. that I had swam and played water polo in high school. And I was a surfer and good water person, good waterman. And they had these jobs called lifeguards at the beach. And they paid $3.21 an hour. And so I said, I got to do that, right? So I was going to college, but I ended up becoming an ocean lifeguard, and ultimately it became a full-time role, and I became head of operations. And, I did that for 9 years. And then from there, so that was my first career, was a full-time ocean lifeguard. And then from there was a fateful day in the spring of 1982, when literally within 3 days of each event, I was simultaneously offered the chief lifeguard position for the county of San Diego, which would have been fantastic, being down in Solana Beach, right on the beach, things like that, or to go into the city manager's office in San Clemente, where I live. And I'd been working on my master's degree in public administration. And so I chose wingtips over bare feet and red board shorts, and the rest was history, right? And then I just cut my teeth. I was young then. I cut my teeth on budgeting, labor relations, development activities, public works, had a chance to work in the sewer plant, all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
I did that for 13 years in city government, working for 3 different cities, and ultimately becoming city manager, which I really, really loved. I was having a good time doing that. And then out of the blue, I was recruited to do a startup of an express lane or toll facility on the 91 freeway here in Southern California, called the 91 Express Lanes. Mm-hmm. And it was the first privately financed toll facility in the U.S. Since World War II, and the first fully automated toll facility, no toll booths in the world ever, and the first use of what we ended up calling value pricing or congestion pricing in the United States. So What was so cool was that I knew absolutely nothing about that industry. And we were breaking new ground, so nobody knew, right? So we were just making it along. And so the interesting thing is I was hired in February of 1995. I'm told you will have us open by December 95, by the end of the year, and we opened on December 27th. And from February that year to December that year, I went from knowing absolutely nothing about this industry to being an international expert. I was speaking internationally on this. So, that was the learning curve. Learning curve just went like this, right? And so I got my launch in the tolling and express lanes industry, and I ended up doing that was a public-private partnership with private equity, and I was working for the equity, which I can tell you is quite exciting when you got a board of directors of 3 companies and then 12 European banks that you owe money to.
Oh yeah,
on a startup, right? And so then we ended up selling that, and I formed an operating company then that we operated that facility for the new owners. And then I went to San Diego and did a new one, a brand new toll road down there, which was a great experience. And interestingly there, where the first one was very successful financially and very difficult politically, the one in San Diego was politically a lot better, but it was very difficult. We opened when the Great Recession hit. And so I got the opportunity to take that one through Chapter 11. So that added another experience to my background.
Yeah.
And so we restructured it, took it through Chapter 11, and then sold it to the Transportation Authority there, which of course naturally then I made them an offer to form Greg Co. and form an operating company operated for them. They didn't take me up on it, right?
Yeah.
And so so the toll industry was my third, and so since my third career, so then nobody would give me another startup in an area where my wife and I wanted to live. I had options, but we love the beach lifestyle. So then I said, okay, it's time to go into consulting, right? And so I became an infrastructure consultant, and that's what I was doing full time up until September of 2022 when I stepped away from full time work, and now I'm just having a ball doing all kinds of different stuff.
And busier than ever.
I'm busier than ever. I'm having a good time. People ask me what I do. Well, I am still working part-time doing infrastructure work. I won major projects, a $500 million connector project, where my job, interestingly, is to sit in the middle of 4 public agencies and help them develop this, come to their agreement how they're going to develop this project. So my job, I call it Switzerland, but it's I'm the project facilitator. And then in addition to that, as you mentioned, I am doing a good amount of executive coaching, which I absolutely love. I've always loved mentoring and coaching. And then I'm also the president of a nonprofit here in San Clemente that supports our lifeguard and junior lifeguard programs. And then a full-time husband of 47 years, a full-time father and grandfather, a full-time surfer, and a budding children's book author. So I'm having a ball. I'm just having a great time keeping busy.
It's brilliant. It's so exciting. And I love before the show when we were talking about all of those different pieces, and I asked you what excites you right now around sort of the future of teams and what work can be for those teams. And you said it was all about this abundance of opportunity and this ability for us to live a more integrated life. So maybe you can expand a little on that.
Sure. As I mentioned, we were talking, I'm a baby boomer, right? And so when I entered the workforce, it was all about command and control. In fact, the stuff my master's degree I finished my master's degree in 1983, None of that I learned. There's some stuff I carry with me, but PodScorb and this kind of stuff, they taught us all about command and control and all this kind of stuff. That only could take us so far. And we've learned over the years, that teamwork, the future of teamwork, in my mind, at least, yes, we manage to the metrics, right? And we lead our teams and we report to our shareholders and things like that. But we do that in an environment where we're paying attention. Of course, we're paying attention to the trends. We're paying attention to where the future of our industries might go, what's happening with our client base, what's happening with our suppliers, things like that. But we're doing it in an environment where we're leading our teams that's focused. I would say that, in my mind, the metrics will follow if as leaders, we do our job. And our job as leaders, at least in my mind, right, is to first of all, make sure we have the right people. Make sure we have the right people. We can talk about that a little bit too, because I've got some thoughts on that. Make sure you have the right people, and then make sure that you've developed, and I prefer interactively, a compelling vision for your team to wrap their arms, their brains, their emotions, their hearts around, right? And let me tell you, if you can do the same thing with your customers, with your client base, and your in the same manner, your suppliers, boy, how powerful that is. But once you get your team around that vision, organized around that vision and solidly behind it, because we have to win their hearts before we can win their heads and their hands, right?
Yeah.
Then make sure that they have the right tools in place. You give them the tools that they need. You give them the processes that help them, and then you're there to support them. And then get out of the way. Just get out of the way and let them do the best work of their lives.
Yeah.
And if we can, as leaders, if we can do that, there's no end to what our teams can accomplish. And whether it's a product or a service, the future belongs to leaders who are paying attention to that type of stuff, who are paying attention to who do I have on the team? What's our true north? What are we working towards? And how are we communicating that? And then give them what they need. And like I said, get out of their way and just watch amazing stuff happen.
That's good. That perfectly sums up, Greg, why I'm so excited and eternally curious about teams, because there is no singular playbook for how a team can get something done. And depending on who's on that team, and like you said, how you set that vision, how you give them the tools and processes, they can just go and achieve these things that the individuals can't achieve alone.
That's right. And sometimes you can't see that unless you scratch below the surface, unless you dig deeper, and you can't dig deeper unless you know who your team is. I've been pretty fortunate in that where I've been CEO of 3 different companies, and then a city manager, which is essentially the CEO of government. And my teams there ranged from 50 to 200. And at that level, you can pretty much know everybody, and you can know enough to have a conversation with them and things like that. And they can tell when you care. Who is it? I think it was attributed to Teddy Roosevelt, that says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And through my entire career, that has shown to be so true, is that when you show that you care, about whether it's your teammates, the people that work with you and for you, your suppliers, your customers, etc. That's when things really start to blossom. So in that regard, I mean, I'm going to lose it here. I've sat at bedsides of my team members that were dying with their families, right? Yeah. And that's sorry to lose it here, but I mean,
no, that's okay.
I mean, that's heavy stuff. Right?
It is, yeah.
And that's way beyond going to weddings and things like that. But to really show that you're connected and you're committed, and then you with that team, you can just do amazing things. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to have that connection that comes from that collective vision and working together, not just towards the vision coming to life, but what you said here earlier about absolutely doing your best work, because that creates a real sense of mattering. That's like, hey, it really matters how I show up and do my work for Greg and for Andy and for Jenny and whoever else is on the team, and it forges a bond. I think they call it the epiphany effect, where people that come through a moment of hardship or transformation just create these social bonds that are very strong.
Oh, yeah. And particularly in my experience doing 3 startups, you go through a startup together, and you are tight.
Yeah, I bet.
You are tight. And we used to laugh and joke because, I mean, at one, I literally taught my team, I said, okay, this is how you take your office chair and you lay it down on the floor, and you can use what's the back of the chair for a pillow. Because we were literally working 24/7 to get open. So, when you've gone through that together, right?
Yeah.
When you've had your programmer's room and you just keep feeding them Red Bull and candy bars, whatever, right? When you come out of that, you're strong, you're committed.
Yeah.
But one thing that's interesting, Dane, is that we used to think in terms of career. Like my dad, 30 years at one place, gold watch, that type of thing.
Yes.
And then we kind of got this idea, well, maybe I'm going to have 3 or 4 different, employers, but same career. Boy, now what we're seeing, and particularly with the millennials, the Gen Z and the Gen Alphas, that, I mean, they're going to pick up and move because, it's time for them. And I always have said that if we reach a point in my organization where I don't have a spot for someone to go,
Yeah.
either laterally or vertically, I got to let him go.
Oh, I love that.
I have to let him go, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? A lot of times they'll boomerang back,
Yeah.
or they'll open up an opportunity for you. But there's a great book. I actually took it out here. What Color Is Your Parachute? This is the 1993 edition by Richard Bowles, and I had a lot of conversations with him. And how this came about was I was working at one place, and around midnight I went to the boss's office and said, I think it's time that we implement that severance clause in my contract, right? And with no planning at all. And so what did I end up doing? I ended up coaching people, because I just spent the last 2.5 years taking the organization from 550 employees to 285.
Yeah.
I was the guy, right? You did not want to be having lunch with me, because we were having lunch with me, they're putting your stuff in a box, right? And trying to do it as humanely as possible. This is what we need to do. Anyway, so then now it was my turn, right? And so I thought, what can I do? Well, I took all that I had learned, and I was doing workshops at that point for public agencies that were going through layoffs.
Wow.
And the kind of the handbook we used was this. And the reason I bring this up now is because we use it so much because this book, if you're familiar with it, helps you create a picture of your ideal next opportunity. And it does it in the form of a flower. And the idea is that if you're not in the right environment, with the right location, with the right people doing the type of work you like, you'll wither up. But when all that comes together, you grow and blossom like a flower, right? Yeah. And so in today's environment, it's not just when you're looking, for your first job or whatever. It's like I'm convinced that the best people are always looking and always open for what's going to help them grow, what's going to help them become the person that they are capable and want to become.
Yes.
And what we're trying to do is we're trying to align what they are good at and what they want to do with what we do. And at some point, it just may not work anymore, and we have to send them on their way. We have to say, good luck. Let's keep in touch. Yeah. Right? I love you, and go do great things, and maybe our paths will cross again in the future. Maybe they won't, but this is a big old world. We don't have to be, it's an abundant, I have an abundance mentality, not a scarcity mentality, right? It's a big old world. There's plenty of opportunity for everybody, whether they're on my team or something else. And I can't begrudge it if they decide that something is different for them that they want to do. And so from a teamwork perspective, if and I'm a child of the 60s, right? And there was this saying that says, if you love something, set it free.
Yes.
You remember this?
Yeah.
Love something, set it free, And I forget it, but it says, if it comes back, great. If it doesn't, then you never own it. I forget this thing. I can't record it right. But if you love something, set it free. And it's the same way. I think it's the same way with our teams.
I think it's the same thing with our teams. I think it's the same thing with some of the ideas and processes within our teams and organizations too. I think we're living in a world now where, going back to your point on command and control, once upon a time, it was very expensive to invest in a new tool, a new system, a new way of working. But now so much is virtual or available in the cloud or adjustable, configurable, that as leaders, like you said, I love the way you put it. Once you've put the right team together, given them the vision, given them the tools and process, you've just got to step out of the way. And whether that's giving them freedom and agency to build something in your team, or whether it's them leaving your team to go and do something else, it all has a circularity to it. I think it all brings energy if you do it in the right way.
Yeah, and I'll give you a good example of when I didn't do it the right way.
Yeah.
In terms of just going back to letting your team do their best work. I was running a business, small business, revenue about 40 million a year. Yeah. And overnight, I was watching TV one night, and I came up with this idea about, you put this and this together. If we did this. And so I said, I want to do this. So we put this new policy in place for our customers. So when I was running one of the express lanes, put this policy in place, and overnight, 10% increase in revenue with no cost.
Wow.
I was a hero, right, with the board.
It's a dream project.
Hero, right? 10% increase in revenue, no cost, unbelievable. I thought I was a champion. What I didn't realize is that I had not taken advantage of this brain power on my team. And I didn't ask my customer service folks, what the impact might be on them.
Yeah.
And I ended up just totally blowing up our call center, and making our customer service representatives' lives miserable for like 6 weeks until this all blew over. I mean, it was miserable. It was horrible. And so I literally on Monday morning after this hit, and I realized I made a big mistake, I went down to the customer service center, 7:00 in the morning, and I literally got on my knees in front of my entire customer service staff and begged their forgiveness.
Yeah.
I literally physically got on my knees and begged their forgiveness.
Wow.
And it was at that point that my leadership team said, Greg, you will never, ever launch another initiative without having a black cloud meeting with us. What could go wrong meeting.
Yeah.
Because we're here to help you.
Yeah.
You nut. That's probably
Totally.
the word they use. We're here to help you. You went and did this thing because you made you look really good to the board, but yeah, talk about, but fortunately when I did that, your team, if you have, Stephen Covey talks about the emotional bank account, right?
Yes.
Had enough in the emotional bank account that I survived it, but I remember that lesson to this day, to make sure that you take advantage. You got a lot of brain power there.
You do.
Take advantage of it. You're not
don't
necessarily
know
the smartest person in the room.
That's it. I don't know if you've had much to do with Craig Weber. He wrote Conversational Capacity. He's here in California. And one of the things, he tells a great story about robbing from the company. I think he was working with a large client, and they had this conversation. They said, you're walking into a room of 14 people. If you don't ask them, to your point, the black cloud meeting, what could go wrong? What am I missing with this idea? You're robbing from the company because you're paying all of these people a salary to do important jobs, and you're not giving them the opportunity. So I think that's a real one. The second one, which I like about black cloud meetings, is it ties into gratitude, because if you go and ask someone for their opinion, insights, input, that you didn't have to because you're the boss, you're creating an opportunity to share gratitude, show gratitude towards them, towards their capabilities. And I think that's really good for team bonding too.
It really is. And thanks for bringing up, gratitude, because, that is really important, and it comes in so many different ways, right? It comes in so many different ways. For example, I will carry around in my pocket these little rocks. I can hold up the camera, I think. Right?
Yeah. You rock.
I carry these in my pocket, right?
Yeah.
How much does it cost? How difficult is it to leave that corner office wherever you are and go to someone's cubicle or other field or things like that and say, hey, I really appreciate about you. I was thinking about you. I want to give you this rock. And these things stick around, right? And it's just amazing. I mean, I think all of us have somewhere a note that a supervisor or someone wrote to us,
Yes.
we hang on to those things, right? Right? We hang on.
That's cool.
We just hang on. I'll tell you just one other story about gratitude, though. And this is the so I go from the rock, right? Which is, that doesn't cost hardly anything, right? And our simple thank you. When we sold the toll road I was running in San Diego, it was my last afternoon. I was going. Everyone else was going with the new owner, except for the CFO and the CEO. So I was gone, right?
Yeah.
And so I called everybody into the room, the conference room, 50 employees in the conference room, told them how proud I was of them and that type of stuff. And then we pulled out for all 50 of them, except for those under 21, a bottle of nice French champagne.
Nice.
Them. The under 21 got a bottle of sparkling apple cider and an IOU for when they turned 21. But then I had gotten the approval from my board, and so I instructed the CFO to go to the bank, right, and get $50,000 in crisp $100 bills.
How cool!
And every employee got an envelope with $1,000 in crisp $100 bills on my last day, right? And did I mention it was like 10 days before Christmas?
Oh,
That was like the coolest
timing.
thing I ever did in my life, right?
Yeah.
So, going from a simple thank you to, to something like that. But it's the manner that you do it. Let's talk about that for a second. When you're
Yeah.
showing gratitude, it's the manner that you do it. How many people have gotten, let's say, a bonus, right?
Yeah.
And it just shows in your paycheck and they've taken taxes out. You're like, we need this when we show gratitude. Let's do it with some style.
Yes.
Let's do it with some style where they're gonna remember it, right? And
Totally.
so,
And actually, we had Chris Shembra, who's the gratitude guru, on the show last year. And he actually talked about the importance when you show gratitude to someone else, that they saw that it took some effort on your part. So making it have style, having a bottle of champagne that you procured or a crisp envelope of notes, that shows that you were all thoughtful about it, that you made an effort about it.
Exactly.
That's more important than the dollar value of the gift, to your point, that's something that just shows up in the paycheck. So I think that's a big one for all
that's
teams.
exactly right, because I forgot to mention that I went around the room to all 50
Yeah.
and told them what I appreciate about them. I put my hand on their shoulders, and that was, and some guys were like fanning themselves with their $1,000. People were crying. It was amazing. But one other thing that I want to mention is that, along with black cloud thinking, another thing for me, from a leadership perspective, in terms of accessing the power, the brain power, and the knowledge and the value of your team is I would ask, we'd have contests, and it was called a "This Seems Stupid to Me" contest, right?
Oh, awesome.
And basically, I would actually say, and I would have our my direct reports do with their direct reports, and I'd say, at least once a month, I want you to come to me and say, "This seems stupid to me. Why are we still doing this way? Why are we even doing this? Why do we have this rule? Why do we do this, that type of stuff?" It's amazing, because they're the ones closest
Yeah.
to the customer, right?
Correct.
I told a story a couple of weeks ago on my LinkedIn video about my wife. She went to the supermarket to get she's going to bake some cookies, and she needed to get this Crisco cookie. It's
The oil kind of.
What's cooking
Yeah,
oil?
yeah.
It's like that. And she went to where it normally is in the baking goods. It wasn't there. And so she asked the staff there, "Where's the Crisco?" They said, "Oh, we moved it to the salad dressing aisle." And she says, "Well, who decides that?" And they said, "Oh, some corporate guys." And so my wife walks over to the salad dressing aisle, and sure enough, there it is. But there she sees 4 guys in suits.
Oh,
She says, "Excuse me." You have to know my wife. She says, "Excuse me, are you guys from corporate?" They go, "Yeah." She says, I just have one question. Which one of you was the genius that decided to move the Crisco from the baking aisle to salad dressing, right? And they mumbled something about doing some studies or something like that. She came back a few weeks later, and the Crisco was back with
it was back.
Yeah. But
Brilliant.
her point was, her management consulting point was, was let the people closest to the customer make the decisions.
Yes.
Listen to them, right? Listen to them. They're going to keep you from making some bad mistakes. So
Big time.
That's pretty cool.
And there's internal customers too, Greg. That reminds me of had a Julia Markish on the show, and she was talking about ride-along days. So let's think about a hospital or a healthcare system. Sometimes you need to ride along with a nurse or with some auxiliary care provider, technician, to understand what their day looks like, in order to realize, the things that we're doing upstream as doctors here or as administrators, like your call center example.
Yes.
It's flowing downstream, and it's creating a whole lot of extra work. So I think that's a really cool way to just kind of, like your wife did in the store, just kind of have the conversation there in the moment where you see something that's odd and out of place. So this seems stupid to me contest. It's a great way to encourage everyone to play the game.
You know what? You put a suggestion box out there. Nobody ever puts anything in the suggestion box. But if you ask for "this seems stupid to me," oh yeah. But let me share it. Let me share that I learned early in my career. This is back when I was working for cities. That just what you exactly said. Go spend some time in their shoes. So every year there would be like a United Way campaign or something like that, and whoever would raise the most, whatever, they would get me for a day.
Yes.
And so I would go. So I have done asphalt work on streets. I've done some
Awesome.
pretty nasty work in sewer plants.
Yeah.
The parks crew made me change out fiberglass benches in 95-degree heat, 90 grams with 95% humidity. I mean, of course I've done a lot of work with public safety too. So a lot of ride-alongs with police and fire.
Yeah.
And things like that. And you know what? It's invaluable for also what you learn, but also the message that sends to the team.
Yes.
When you're at that point, I was like the number 2 in the organization. When you're sitting on the curb with them having lunch, and
Yep.
they've been laughing at you because you can't make a straight line on the street. You're trying to paint a straight line. The straight line is going left. They see you're human. Right.
Yes.
And particularly with self, because at that, I was also responsible for negotiating, like I said, the labor contracts at that time. So, I mean, we all had our roles to play, but that type of thing, those ride-alongs, like you said, and those work side by side,
That's super cool.
it's amazing what that does for your team
Yeah.
and for you as a leader too.
Oh, absolutely. No, I've found it to be encouraging, inspiring, and it drives that human connection, like you say, that is such a gap right now, particularly if you're in an organization that's heavily distributed. You've got lots of different field facilities or people out in trucks, or maybe you're hybrid, even more important.
Yeah. That's why those, when we were back in COVID and we'd have, have all those team meetings, virtually, right? Things
Yeah.
like that. And so we were struggling to make them at least a little bit more personal, things like that, right? So we would treat them just like if just we could do it real quick, but we would do things like, okay, so let's launch this meeting. Everyone has to share a time. Hopefully the statute of limitations has passed when you either should have died or should have been in jail. Tell us your story, right? And the bonding for that. And we wouldn't normally do that, sitting around the conference room, but it just seemed to work in this new virtual environment.
We had another guest who talked about bring your craziest idea. So when you're trying to solve a new problem, hey, we're going to start with the absolute craziest ideas, because we don't want to start with something obvious, and we want to see what we may learn from those things before we zone in.
Good.
And that's a good way to create a bit of connection, a bit of fun, and safety to say the thing that you might be thinking would work, but you're afraid to say.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had someone come to me one time, and they've been doing some analytics and said, Greg, we should fire a third of our customers because they're not profitable for us. Or we need to find a way to make them profitable.
Yes.
Right. So we found a way to make them profitable. But if they never raised that, we may not have dealt with that. And that was another kind of multi-million-dollar aha that this person brought, just because they took the time. And this was way before deep data analytics, right? This is I've been thinking, about this, and they just did a little math on an Excel spreadsheet and said, I bet if we did this, we could either fire them or we have to do this. And I'm like, thank God for you, right?
It's so true of so many businesses too. There's a great pricing consultant out there, Casey Brown, and she talked about that. She did a little graph and plotted the smaller customers and the cost of service delivery. And she's like, you're super profitable up here, but you're losing money on this bottom third or 20%. And not only are you losing money, let's put the P&L to the side for a minute. Going back to your call center example again, you're making some of your employees' lives miserable by having to deal with these customers.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's
That's
fascinating. At the top of the conversation, Greg, you talked about important things for a leader to do, and one of them was putting the right people on the team. What's your construct or framework been when it comes to actually selecting people on a team for a given mission or project?
Well, whether it's a new hire or whether it's just we're putting it together in an internal team, I like to look for what I call what's their differentiator. I do a lot of work as a consultant responding to RFPs, right? And then you go and you write your proposal, and you usually have an interview and that type of stuff. And what we talk about, and there's a great guy named Tom Searcy who wrote a book on his company's Hunt Big Sales. He talks about whale hunting, right? Which he's an amazing guy. But he really drove it home when I had a chance to study under him that 90% of what needs to be done, any of these companies can do. Right?
Yeah.
In fact, they can all do it at a fairly decent level. So what's your 10%? What is it that you bring that differentiates you? What is it that you bring that sets you apart, that might be a little bit different? And then when I'm putting together, I'm hiring someone and bringing a team, I always ask them that question. What is it that sets you apart? What makes you different? Right? Which to me is a lot better than why should I hire you? Right?
Oh, sure.
If I say, because it forces him to think, this, and he asks, and you can drill down and drill down and drill down on that until you find that, until you get to the core, you ask why of who they really are. And you build your team. I build my team based upon that, based upon those extra skills, those extra capabilities, that extra attitude. You may have seen the video on 212 degrees. At 211 degrees, what do we have? We have hot water. At 212, one more degree, you have boiling water. Yes. And boiling water can power a locomotive. It can generate electricity, that kind of stuff. So what is that 1%? Or that, in that case, it's the 1%. But what is what's that extra that person brings? And then the second thing is, I'm looking for joy. And I realize joy is not something we talk about in the workplace much. But I'm looking for someone that's stoked, that just, that this is what, they say, oh my God, I've been waiting for this opportunity, or, or this is exactly what I love to do. And I ask them, give me some examples. And when you see them light up, they're committed, right?
Totally.
They're committed. And people, they're not going to give you their best for $100 or $150 or $200,000 a year. But if you give them a cause that they believe in, it's amazing. It's amazing what they'll do.
It's what my friend, his book's here right behind me, Andre Martin wrote the book Wrong Fit, Right Fit. And he talked a lot about when people really know what they're fighting for and they're all behind it, their discretionary effort that they choose to bring to work, they're not asked to, they're not paid for it, but they choose to bring that discretionary effort.
Right.
What it can deliver in terms of customer service, experience, innovation, productivity, you name it, safety, it's an absolute driver of results.
And when that happens, ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things. They really, we see it in the sports world all the time, right? We
Absolutely.
do. A team that's on paper should be incredible, right? Because they've got all the superstars lined up. They can't get together, and you get another team that just has the right chemistry and the right leadership and the right vision, the right commitment, and man, everybody loves those stories.
That's pretty cool. So I've got a final question for you, Greg. This time's flying by, but public-private partnerships, not a lot of people have had experience in those. And you've got a lot of stakeholders around the table. So there's the team that's doing the work, but then there's all of the other teams that you're kind of teaming with or interacting with. What would you say the biggest positives were that you experienced in that environment? Whether it was, having more great minds around the table or having more diversity of perspective or interest, like what was it that made particularly that early project on the 91 such a success for you?
Well, keep in mind that there are different kind of levels and approaches to public-private partnership, and it has to do with how much risk is shared by who has what risk.
Got it.
Right. And the ones that I did, they were really truly public-private partnerships where the private sector, the equity, took on the majority, if not all, the risk.
Right.
So if it did well, you did well. If it tanked, you tanked. Right.
Yeah.
And the more if it's a government agency, the more that they kind of put their fingers in it, then that increases your risk. Then you have to find ways to increase your reward, or you don't do the project. So for me, because I've been coming out of a government world, right?
Yes.
Which Government workers do great work. They're dedicated as anybody else, but that pressure of having equity money in it, and then like I said, and when we talked before, borrowing hundreds of millions of dollars from these banks, foreign and domestic, right?
Yep.
And then so you have the pure profit motive pretty much over here, right? And then you have the public service and the public benefit motive over here, and you have to blend those two together.
Yes.
And so that's why I came out of a city manager background, so I can see both sides, right? And so I was able to, the kind of the challenge for me and part of the joy for me was bringing bankers, equity, and the government agencies who have held our franchise together, right, to make something good happen. But the thing that for me really, really made it exciting for me was because that's all good, but we had customers we were making lives better.
Yeah.
We were making their lives better, literally saving them, hours every day, giving them time back with their families or whatever they want to do, more sales, things like that. And so to be able to take all of those constituents and focus them on the customer, which was my job, because they don't tend to think about the customer. They think about that number at the bottom right-hand corner of the spreadsheet, or are we following all the rules and regulations? So I really liked and learned that the three of those can come together and make a great thing happen. And they're not, we haven't seen as many of them since.
We haven't.
No, we just haven't, because they're very, very difficult to do. The guy who was the managing director of that project, he used to say if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, and it's not easy. But I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it does. It does. I saw a number of them in Australia back in the early 2000s and late 2000, sort of 2008, 9, right up into the kind of global financial crisis that we ran into. And it was particularly for roads, tunnels, bridges, rail, large transport infrastructure.
My equity in San Diego was an Australian firm,
there you go.
An international Australian investment bank.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they were very, very familiar. And that was, and there were 4 that were approved in California, and only 2 of them ever went forward. And I had the privilege and opportunity to lead both of those.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm fascinated. We'll have to pick up on it another time, but I'm fascinated at a smaller scale, even like with local cities, what you can see from businesses and local authorities, agencies collaborating, because there is right now a need for more human connection. There's a need for more teamwork in these communities to make things happen, particularly as we've become a little bit more local in our footprints, post-COVID with remote work. It's definitely a space that I think holds promise and at the same time complexity.
Yeah, but that's what makes it fun,
Yeah.
Like that's true. If it was easy, anybody would be doing it. And I have always loved to throw myself into every job I ever, every change I ever made was fraught with peril.
Yes.
Because I was going to something I'd never done before, right? And but life's not worth living. In my mind, if you're not throwing yourself into the void, into the vortex, right? And I have confidence God's going to take care of me. I mean, I don't do foolish things, but in surfing, we talk about go big or go home, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I will wipe out. I'll eat it in front of the whole crowd. You got to just come up laughing, right?
That's all you can do.
It's all you can do. At least I went for it.
That's it. Well, I love the conversation. I love the energy you bring to it, Greg. Clearly, you've had a lot of success and brought a lot of joy to teams through your projects and time there. The curiosity that you bring is awesome. I love those tips on how to hire, what's their differentiator, what's their 10%, and where do they light up and bring joy. I thought the Black Cloud meeting is really powerful for any leader or team.
Yeah.
That's super cool. And I'm definitely going to roll out the This Seems Stupid to Me contest, because that just seems fun. So thank you for bringing all those gifts today.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me, Dane. I really appreciate it.
And I know you put a lot of great stories out. So if anyone wants to find you, is LinkedIn the best place?
Yeah, right now LinkedIn. I'm still a Luddite when it comes to. I have not put my YouTube channel together yet, but So LinkedIn. I'd love to have people. I always love feedback on my videos and my other things I put up on LinkedIn.
Great. Well, I'll have Alicia add that in the show notes too.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg, and hope to see you out there when this swell arrives later this week.
I'll see you in a few days.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, Dane. Take care.
Thank you for joining us. Remember that by embracing vulnerability, trusting our intuition, and approaching challenges with compassion, we not only strengthen our teams, but also pave the way for a future where collaboration thrives. If you're hungry for more insights, strategies, and research on collaboration, head over to thefutureofteamwork.com. There, you can join our mailing list to stay updated with the latest episodes and get access to exclusive content tailored to make your team thrive. Together, we can build the future of teamwork. Until next time.